Welcome to the first day of your new reality. Your world as you know it will never be the same. It is time to wake up and see the world as it is. Welcome to the Year 2045 podcast. I'm your futurist and host, Rami, and in our podcast, we're going to bring on guest speakers to talk about virtual reality and augmented reality, mixed reality, AI, robots, Skynet, and much, much more. So hang on and let's go. Super excited to introduce our guests for today. Our guests are Wendy, Scott, and Jason. Wendy and Scott are the innovation meet inspiration experts. As industry outsiders, they have strategically shared SUNI the robot with educational institutions and tech industry leaders as promotional research in schools and at public events. This research will help all of us understand how to better promote STEM in America. Their 8-month promotional STEM campaign has yielded some mind-blowing results and a few eye-opening lessons. Team SUNI shared content, ideas, and methodologies with these STEM leaders. It has always been their hope that this information will shape future STEM promotions and provide real-world solutions for our ever-growing technological disparity gap. And Jason, an engineer with 20-plus years of experience in the automotive, oil, and green energy industries, he has owned and operated 5 businesses. He has started and continues to run Maker's Next Gen Education Foundation, providing STEM classes from grades 2nd through 12th. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Pleasure to have you here today. Thank you for coming in.
You bet.
Very impressive resume and obviously lots of experience in the room. Very awesome. Was there anything on your background that maybe I didn't touch on or anything you wanted to add to tell us about?
I think we're good. Just a lot of years in telecommunications
Cool.
and communicating. So
Awesome.
Yeah, we're excited.
Very cool. Well, let's start with you, Scott. Tell me about your field and what got you into this, into robotics.
My background in telecommunications and radio broadcasting. So I have a kind of a balance between love for technology and implementing it and then also communicating. So I've always wanted to build a robot. A couple years ago, my wife and I set out to do so, but not to actually just build an AI robot. It was more of an experiment to see how we could use that robot in the public and how the public would perceive them.
That's awesome. And to you, Jason, what got you into this field?
Engineering. For me, a lot of it's the education side of the equation. How do we prepare students for the future to be ready to tackle the technology that's joining us, whether they want to or not? And right now, not enough students in the U.S. specifically are prepared or going down that path. So how do we get them engaged early and keep them moving forward?
Very cool. Wendy, what got you into the field? You can pull the mic in over towards her there.
Me, I think.
Working alongside with Scott. Yes, absolutely. But it's been quite the experience and so much fun building and creating SUNI. And we continue to work on his artificial intelligence. And it's really fun to share, and it's really neat to see the public's reaction, especially the children, and how excited they get to meet SUNI.
That's awesome. So I had an opportunity to meet SUNI. You actually brought him into the building. We'll actually show some video later to our audience so they can see SUNI.
Yes.
Everybody kind of, when I posted the picture, I got a lot of hits on Instagram. People kept talking about Johnny 5 from Short Circuit.
Yes, there's a lot of inspirations. Being Gen Xers, Short Circuit, definitely. And then with our daughter, we fell in love with Wall-E. So when we built him, it was kind of a combination between that. And again, we wanted to use visual cues to kind of break down that scary barrier of, the Terminator factor. So that was the idea, is to have it be where, it was familiar and create that connection right off the bat. There's some robots out there that just look scary. So the idea is to just tame that down and make it, mainstream.
It makes him much more approachable.
Yeah, exactly.
So you just decided when I'm going to build a robot.
Yes. I always wanted to. As a child, ever since I saw Short Circuit, and I saw that movie and it was like, okay, I know this isn't real, but I really want to build a robot. And over the years, as the technology advanced, now people like us can literally build their own robot.
I guess just watch out for lightning strikes. You might
exactly. Yeah.
Autonomous.
We're waiting for that, actually.
Now, Jason, tell me about your role with SUNI. How did you get involved?
Actually, we met at a small little conference.
Intel.
Yeah, we met at Intel. And we were working together for a camp and kind of showing what technology offers. And just worked out well. Where they were headed and where I'm headed, collectively, now we're both headed in the same direction. So it was just meeting of two people, two groups working on the same thing, and it just meshed very well.
We clicked immediately. We just started talking, and we're standing over SUNI looking at each other, and the more that he spoke, the more that I realized that we felt like real industry outsiders. And it wasn't until we met Jason that we realized, because he is truly that stereotypical insider, which is a good thing. And we clicked, and that's when we realized that there's a conversation here that we can all have that is a conversation we want to have. And we, like I said, we've just been hooked at the hip ever since then, and it's been almost a year now.
Yeah, and a lot of the possibilities, they're already working on. Yeah. And it's just augmenting that and adding to that to just continue the growth. Yeah. And I like the feel. Yeah. SUNI is very approachable, and that's a great way to reach people.
How long did it take to develop SUNI?
We had about 24 months of research before we actually started building, and then just about 18 months to actually build them, and then we tested out about 4 months before we actually put it into the public. I was afraid to. It was my daughter last year at Comic-Con at the Phoenix Convention Center. She was like, "Dad, you got to take SUNI to Comic-Con." And I'm like, "I don't know." And she's like, "No, he's that good." And I'm like, "Really?" And she's like, "Okay." So I told my wife, Wendy, and she's like, "No, we're not going. I don't want to go." And I'm like, "No." And I showed her some videos, and then the light bulb went off. And we were scared when we went out there, and it took us an hour and a half, Rami, I'm serious, to get in the door. And that's when we realized immediately that we were onto something. That the public's perception and their reception of it was just incredible. It really was.
That's awesome. Yeah. Tell me about the programming of SUNI. Does he have his own? What's the AI capabilities with him, or what does his program look like?
That's a worldwide collaboration. So we're using some Google software now for his real-time SLAM, and some code from pretty much all over the world. Our main programmer is in Poland, so he actually programs SUNI remotely with the internet at our location. So we really wanted to kind of get as much technology from China. I know it sounds crazy, but from China, from Russia, from all of these other countries that are really, really into the AI, and figure out a way to be able to make it where we could present it to the children and kids in an educational way.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah. But it's real AI. I mean, we are literally using, code and programming that more advanced robots are using around the world as well.
And you said SUNI couldn't be with us here today because he's getting an upgrade?
He's getting upgrades, yes. Yes. You want to talk about it?
Go ahead.
Okay. What we're doing is we're adding tracking hardware and software into him, so he will literally be able to track motion. And then we should be able to sign language commands to get him to actually complete it. So it's the very, very first ground level of AI, where we'll give SUNI a task and he will be able to perform it.
That's awesome.
Yes.
So let's talk. Go ahead.
And then the AI, the real-time SLAM, which is a simultaneous localization and mapping program. That's the core to any AI. We're using Google Cartography now, which is a lot better code than what we were using before. So that's part of why he's offline, because we literally had to start from scratch, in a sense, on the programming. But he is using the Linux operating system with ROS, Robot Operating System, as well.
That's awesome. So, there's obviously some fear behind robotics and AI that, people talk about, like you mentioned, Terminator and Skynet and the robots turning on us.
Yes.
Or even at a lower level, just taking our jobs.
Yes.
How do you guys address that fear, and where do you, how realistic is that?
Well, fortunately with the kids, that concern doesn't come up too often. So that's not something that I personally have had to address on a regular basis. But the reality is that a lot of the repetitive, and I don't want to say menial, but a lot of the repetitive jobs are going and have been going, especially if you look at the auto industry over the last 20, 30 years. There's so much robotics going into that. The number of people are coming down. So it's those high repetition positions that people are going to be displaced. That's the reality of the situation.
And that in itself is scary. And then you factor in that fear in the back of a lot of Americans' minds, the Skynet, the Terminator. So it's like, are these robots going to kill us? Are they going to take our jobs? That is the whole premise of why we built SUNI, to have that conversation. So we can strip away some of the fear and get to the core of where, as a society, as a technical society, where we're really going and what it's going to look like. Because honestly, the more news reports you watch, the scarier it gets. You hear about all the jobs that are being replaced by automation and machine learning and robotics. And then you start thinking about, the military application of robotics and AI, drones. I mean, there's so many facets that are so scary. Our idea is if we built SUNI, it would force all of the rest of the robot makers to have to come out of the shadows. Because part of our research that we came up with was the more advanced the robot was, the scarier, the more secret it seemed to be. Or they were so advanced that created a whole new level of scary. So the idea is to force the industry to be a disruptor within a very disruptive industry, which is AI. So being a disruptor within a disruptive industry, the idea was almost a backfire effect. So it forced, others to have to start addressing some of these issues, some of these scary things that are a reality. We need to be talking about this.
No, that's great. In Ray Kurzweil's book, The Singularity, he talks about, there's really the debate of, is this really going to be great for humanity? Do we continue down this road or do we pull the plug?
Yep.
And one of the things to talk about, are the benefits outweigh the risks.
Yes.
Being able to automate a lot of the tasks that we do, be more efficient, possibly save lives, and having robotics is a great benefit. Of course, there is the opposite side of that coin, that there could be some dangerous applications in the wrong hands. So
Yes.
I like what you guys are doing because, one, it makes the robot approachable. It opens up the conversation to talk about this, and I think especially let's talk a little more about the generational gap. I know we spoke offline a little bit about how the older generation, the Gen X, the boomers that grew up with Terminator and those movies, there's a lot more fear there. But with the younger generations, like my kids that are growing up with technology and seeing more AI and robotics, what are you guys seeing out there? I think when you had mentioned a 2-year-old, maybe that was a great story. Maybe you could touch on that.
Yes, with one of our visits to an ASU open door, there was a little 3-year-old from China, and he was not afraid of SUNI at all. He had been introduced to robots at a young age in his homeland, and some of the other kids that we met at the open door, they were a little bit fearful. If SUNI came up alongside them, or they just happened to turn around and see SUNI, they're like, oh my gosh, and they'd step away. And the 3-year-old was absolutely fearless, and he was having, SUNI plays music, a lot of 80s music. And the 3-year-old was just over there dancing, having his own little party, just really enjoying it. And we've noticed with a lot of the school visits that we did, some of the children are a little bit fearful. 6th, 7th, 8th graders, I think that they hear their parents having this conversation that we've been having, and they're like, oh no, the robots, they're here to take over the world. But after meeting SUNI and seeing the technology and the possibilities, they were, oh, I could do this, and oh, I could do that. So it really just helped open up that conversation, relax their fears, and their little wheels started spinning. And, a lot of them by the end of our visit were kind of deciding in different directions they wanted to go in furthering their education in technology.
Yeah. It would literally go from, oh no, a scary robot, to, well, when I grow up, I want to program robots too. But what I've noticed the most is the complacency between the younger generation and the overhyped, exaggerated fear of our generation. Somewhere in the middle is going to be the bridge. And we're really hoping that the kids that are like 3, 4, and 5 now, they'll be that bridge. Because it is going to take our generation time to let go of that fear. And I'm not sure if all of us can. I still hear people push back, robots or AI or automation, and they instantly go to, well, did you see the new self-driving semis that's going to put all the truck drivers out of business? And that scared me. Because here I get caught up in I love the technology, this is so great, look what it can do, the kids love it. And then you get brought back down to earth and you have that truck driver say to you, yeah, but what about this? And I don't know how to answer that. I honestly don't. And that's that conversation. Yeah.
There will be a lot of displacement. Back 20, 30, well, not 20, but 30, 40 years ago, you had a mass of drafters.
Yeah.
And these, they would work on boards and they would design parts and cars and things of that nature. Then computer-aided graphics came in and 3D modeling.
Yeah.
You can barely find a board designer anymore. But as the new technology came in, there were people needed to service that technology and maintain it and work with it and develop it and grow it, which is still growing today. not most, but a lot of those people have gone into that industry because that was their skill set. How do I take it from this paper to electronics? Wonderful. There's a good transition there. The next question is, as that truck driver, what do you do next? I don't have an answer for that.
I don't either, and that's a hard
difficult
one. That would be almost, like with a coal miner, going and saying, oh, wait, we have these great green jobs. Well, green jobs are good, but how do you bridge that gap? How do you literally take somebody who's down in a mine or behind a wheel of a semi and convince them that this technology and where society is going with this is better for them? Because in their worlds, and a lot of our worlds too, everything was okay. Why are we changing this? If it's not broke, don't fix it. And that's a lot of the mentality that we seem to run into. Why are we doing this? And I have to, stop and think, why are we doing this? Our society as a whole, if we didn't advance technology another minute and we didn't make another device, would we be better off or worse? So this push to keep always better, better, better every 18 months, the technology completely turns over again. At some point, how long before it runs over us?
That's a good point, and I like that you guys are bringing up, even automation in the auto industry. That. Sure. That goes back a few decades. And then you look at now, you spoke about, some of the more entry-level jobs, that are being replaced. Monsanto's already mapping out farms, and they have, trucks or tractors that are self-driving, and they say they can do it better than the farmers because they know the farm better than they do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you use drones to take a look and monitor the health of the plants. And we need to water just this section and not that. And fertilizer, pesticide, or location.
Yeah, or the death of retail. A small downtown. This has been going on for 2 decades now. And then we take a look back and you're like, okay, well, what technologies and what, is replacing this? And then you're stuck on fulfillment centers where they're using robots to fulfill. So, companies like Amazon, we all love Amazon. We all shop on Amazon. But what we don't realize, it is actually eroding the fabric of what we used to call the retail industry in this country. So eventually, whether we want to or not, we are all going to be purchasing things online, which means your Sears and, Payless Shoes we just recently seen is going, out of business. And it's sad because, Radio Shack a couple years ago, I loved Radio Shack, so we are really being forced to have to deal with these issues. And I do see a lot of people stuffing their head in the sand.
I joke with my kids a little bit about the days, going to Blockbuster, and that was, it was an event going to rent. You guys remember going to rent a movie?
Yeah.
We're going to go rent a movie. We all get in the car. We, spend 20, 30 minutes going down the aisles,
looking at all new releases,
and it was like a family affair. Now you just click and you've got Netflix and Amazon,
or a Redbox replaced them and put them out of business.
Yeah, Redbox did, and then Redbox now being replaced with streaming. So it's all about convenience, but you lose some of that experience. I think that
you do,
having that time together to actually go and do that activity. So it is kind of sad. One of the things we talked about as far as automation, even at the high level, in one of my other shows, we spoke about the Da Vinci machine and how it's recording, the surgeon that actually created it, he said, the machine, the AI is learning how to do these surgeries and eventually won't need me. It's recording everything I'm doing. So I think really it begs the question, is any job safe? Unless you're a programmer or engineer.
Exactly.
Which I told my kids to get into. So.
Yes.
But even then, if you take a look at a lot of the engineering calculations and tools, they have improved so much that the necessary education is actually coming down.
Yep.
And the required capabilities to be a good engineer is actually kind of coming down. It's sad. Some of the people I used to work with, some of the older guys, what they could do just off the top of their head was amazing. The next generation coming up, the first thing they grab is a tool or a device or a calculation modeling device. If that doesn't exist, they scratch their head. Even if we create simulated crashes, which we do for cars, if somebody picks the wrong material or says these 2 points meeting are rigid, or if they forget to make that connection, you run the crash analysis, you're like, everything's fine.
Yeah.
Then you take a real car, you slam it to a wall, and you realize, no, this thing was leaking fuel, and it's now going to go up in flames, which is a bad thing, don't get me wrong. But a very real-world situation, what does that come back to? A human made an error running a robotic program, if you will, or an IA type of program, or AI, excuse me. But running a program, a human made a small error, and now all of a sudden you have potentially a catastrophic event. because no one's looking at it going, that would never work.
Yeah, it always makes you, I talk about this. My wife is technology making us dumber society. I think of it.
Yes.
I used to be great at spelling. Now spell check does that for me.
Phone numbers.
I learned how to.
When was the last time you memorized a phone number? Yeah.
So we're so reliant on it that we tend to not do as much thinking ourselves. So that'll be interesting. I want to talk a little bit about what you guys do with the program and how you go into the classes and work with the kids. Tell me a little more about that briefly.
Yes. What we'll do is we bring Sunny in as a STEM mascot. And then what we'll end up doing is have a Q&A so they can ask questions, and then we'll run through the different systems, and then we will literally, with these kids, have the same conversation we're having right now. And we're talking about those subjects. Sometimes they go really well, and everybody is engaged. I would have to be honest and say probably a third of the time, the only people that are disconnected in the room are the teachers. The kids get it. They're right on board, and they're in line with everything that we're doing. But there seems to just be a disconnect between the teachers, the students, and STEM. And we were kind of discussing that a little bit earlier before we started the interview on where those disconnects are.
And that's a great segue. And just out of curiosity, this is grade school to high school?
To high school, yeah, and even university too. We do find that once you get up into the university, the kids' attention span is not quite as long, and they seem to be a little bit more rigid in their thoughts. So like with Jason and his makers Next Gen, we try and start a little bit younger, so that way they're more preconditioned to being more open and receptive to these high-tech jobs. Can I jump in, just ahead a little bit on this conversation?
Yeah, I think you're going where I want to go is really the educational gap.
Yes.
And, I've spoken to teachers that are like, I know this stuff because we focus a lot on virtual and augmented reality, holograms, and we'll have teachers come in and want to do, field trips with the students here and talk about, VR and AR and how they can apply it to the classrooms. But they're like, I don't know where to start.
Yes.
And so let's go ahead and segue because we spoke about that.
Yes. So. Part of the disconnect I think that we have found is the actual... From big tech and big ed from the top, they both have seats empty in the schools and seats empty at their work or place of work. So they both have basically the same issue. But by the time that you filter down and you make it into the elementary schools and the high schools, none of that information that they need, big tech and big ed, that they're trying to get down to that. The kids that are actually graduating and being pushed up through the education system are lacking the proper skill sets to actually fulfill those jobs and to be able to get in and enrolled in the colleges and to go in those careers. It's so there's such a huge disconnect that if you were a senior this year and you went to school, and let's say you're a C student, and you went to school for basic programming. By the time that you graduated university, ASU, let's just say, by the time you get out of school, there is already a program, machine learning, or AI that's already replaced you. So how do we graduate educated children into the workforce that have the skill set that will transform them into this next, 2045 where we're shooting? How do you do that? And we have not found that where how to bridge that gap, and it's such a huge disparity gap. I'm not really sure, other than to keep having the conversation and keep threading the strings together.
Yeah, it really sounds like we've got to start educating them young and getting the programs in place.
But the teachers too,
and the teachers,
and the teachers are definitely hungry for that to give those kids that higher education, that tech education. But it just seems like the administrators and the rest of the mechanisms above, by default, are pushing down and pushing back, rather than facilitating and allowing that learning and those teachers to be able to start to disseminate the correct information to them. So we're not teaching kids things that are already obsolete. And we do see a lot of that.
A lot of teachers are starting their own STEM programs. We did a STEM visit at one of the local high schools, and it was depending upon how many children she could keep enrolled in her first year of her STEM program would depend whether or not the administration would back her and allow her to do it the following year. So we brought Sunny in and created a bunch of buzz, bunch of excitement, and we filled the room. It was great. Sunny filled the room. Yeah. So, and also with our visits, I wanted to make a point that we do make it a point to educate the children on keeping as they learn these technologies, that it is their responsibility to make sure that we keep it, that they use it for positive and goodness for society and also the environment as much as possible.
Yeah.
So we let them know, hey, this is your job. This is going to be your responsibility. Make sure you use it for good purpose and the right way. And they hung on to that. They absolutely agreed, and we're excited about that.
I love it. No, I think that's a great. Did you want to go ahead?
Well, just a lot of the, if we're talking about educating kids, a lot of the educators that have been out there for 10, 15 years, they don't have the skill set. They may have gone in and they have a degree in English, which is wonderful. But how well does that translate now that they have a job, they have a teaching certificate? You are going to teach this math class. Mm-hmm. Well, wait a minute. And they may know it might be a stretch for them. It's not their comfort zone or necessarily their passion.
Yeah.
So how are they going to instill that passion and that desire when, A, they're trying to learn it themselves potentially, and two, it's just not what they really are passionate about. You can't, if you're passionate about something, it shines.
Yeah.
When you're not, it's hard to motivate other people. So, do we have the right people on the right seat of the bus, so to speak?
Yeah.
English is important, don't get me wrong, it is. But that shouldn't be the person that's trying to reach, teach, and inspire in STEM.
It's so systemic that we were actually in a charter school here in the Valley, and they don't teach science.
There's quite a few of them out there.
And you think about that, and it's like, okay, so by the time that child makes it to college, how much catch up does he have to or she have to do to make the grade? And it's scary when you think about that. And then what else we've noticed is a lot of the programs out there, and there are a lot of programs. Let's name drop a little bit. Code Ninjas is a great organization. They're bridging that gap. They allow parents, from all walks of life, all income brackets, to be able to have their kids be a part of it. That's awesome. But then you get into some of these other programs, and we won't name which ones those are, but some schools are spending upwards of $100,000 to implement these particular STEM programs. And when you start going through what they're teaching them, it's no different than Bob, the English teacher, teaching a STEM class after school. And you start realizing that there's this huge amount of money that's being put into the push of STEM, but where is it actually, in the wash, where's it coming out? And we're not seeing it yet. And again, having this conversation hopefully will start to spur some action.
I love what you guys are doing. I think that, creating that awareness, I think not just for the kids, but for the teachers, the administrators, to understand the parents, to understand the importance of the thing is awesome. Talking a little about, kind of going back, we spoke a little about Sophia and some of the other things that people are seeing on YouTube and on the news. There's definitely that fear factor with some of the stuff people have seen. Where are we right now with AI and robotics, in your guys' opinion? And where do you see us in 10 years?
That's a really good question. Yes.
A lot of growth.
We have a lot of different intelligences. We have general intelligence, which is human beings. Then you have artificial intelligence, which are the robots. I call past that supreme intelligence. And what I'm concerned with and what I'm already seeing, especially with robots like Sophia, also Boston Dynamics with some of their robots, what I'm afraid is because we don't understand as human beings our own general intelligence, what I'm afraid of is that gap jump between artificial intelligence and then an intelligence that is beyond even our own intelligence. That's what's scary. So we could literally go from, the smartphone, which isn't too smart when you're trying to do talk to text. There's nothing that'll make you seem dumber than your smartphone. So when you take a jump from that type of technology, which there's more AI in your cell phone or a smartphone than just about any device that we use today, when you take that jump, how are the machines going to treat us? How are they going to view us? And if a machine is thinking about things, through an algorithm and analytically, we are going to seem very, almost like a virus to them. So in my mind, the only way that we can really bridge that gap, nanotechnology, things like that, would be the integration of humans with the technology. And I can't remember the name of what that's called. I just spaced it. But the integration of the machines into the human beings, is what I feel will keep us and that buffer zone between the Terminator effect happening. Because the more that we incorporate that technology into us, even into our bodies, the more that we are going to have a fundamental understanding of how the machines really do work. I think that AI is also going to help us understand our own general intelligence and where we fit within the universe on this planet. So the integration is truly what will keep, I think, that the Terminator effect from happening. Because the more advanced the machines get, within a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, you're going to have machines that are going to literally look at us and say, you're not logical, goodbye. You're not relevant, goodbye. So that integration, and the more machine-like we can become, the more humanistic the machines, I think, will become. And that will create somewhat of a balance. That's the hope.
No, that's a great point. I mean, there's been a lot of neural mapping and understanding the brain and our synapses, and really understanding how we process information. And then, like you said, being able to take that. I think the bringing the biological, non-biological elements together,
Yes.
Hopefully a longer life, being able to do things we couldn't do right now, but being able to merge those things together, that would probably seem like a more logical solution.
And to give the gift of walking to a paraplegic, using nanotechnology. When we start doing things like that, we are going to, as a human race, overcome barriers that we could not possibly overcome without the technology. And I think that at that point, that's where we'll really truly become more of the fabric of our society, rather than just another tool in our hand.
So right now you feel like we're not at the supreme intelligence yet, but where we sit right now, we're kind of at the edge of starting to see some of that.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. When you start looking at the actual achieved functionality of robots like Sophia, put another 10 years behind her development. I don't know what they've spent, but I'm assuming it's somewhere in the hundreds of millions of dollars on her development. When you can put that much money into it, what my fear is that we will cross over another barrier, not realizing we crossed it because there's so much push to bigger, better, badder. 18 months, another 18-month cycle coming. We have to, for the shareholders, we have to show them some results. So that's my concern. And yes, those machines will, I honestly, if I was a machine and I looked at humans and you ran your algorithm, nope, you don't fit. Yeah. So there really needs to be a seamless integration between the machines and the human beings.
Well, I kind of look at the ant syndrome, right?
Yeah,
do you feel bad stepping on an ant? Well, no, it's so inferior to who you are. And then one of the things that that I've done a lot of reading about is just being able to, with robotics, be able to, connect, with each other and be able to, obviously with the internet and share experiences. And they were, what I was reading was that, AI would have, the cumulative experience of about 10,000 years of humanity,
yes.
At some point,
yes.
Back in the year 2045. So kind of scary in the sense, but they did talk about in the singularity as well, as if you're able to combine that with our current knowledge, or we could share knowledge and download, like in the Matrix, I want to fly a helicopter, download in my brain, there's some application there where that makes sense and humans could survive, in that environment.
And it's already happening, and we don't even realize it. When you're online, and let's say you're shopping at X company, and you get a little pop-up in the upper right-hand corner, and it says, would you like to chat with an operator or a service person? And you click, sure, I have a question. I'm looking to see if you have this in my size. And you put it in there. People think that they're actually, and it says, I'm Bob, or I'm John, how can I help you? That's a chatbot. They're not really talking with human beings. Chatbot technology in just the last 24 months has improved to the point where a panel of true scientists were fooled by a chatbot. They emulated a 5 or 6-year-old child, so that way little irregularities in the speech or things that they could overlook it, and it fooled them. So we are so close with that technology. Facebook took that same technology, gave it no parameters, and we all kind of know that story. It rewrote its own language in like 15 minutes. It literally was communicating, and it wasn't malicious. It was literally trying to do its job better. But when you think about two programs rewriting its own code from English and creating its own language, and then literally rewriting and tweaking its code, that's scary. Google did the same thing, but they gave it parameters, and they actually got good results. They liked their results, and we're using it every day. Every time that you type in something into a Google search, There is an AI algorithm. There is some type of an algorithm that has thought to think, okay, well, let's see. You were just on X website. You like this. Your social media says you like this. And by the time the data farming is done, they already know what you want to see. So it's all around us. So making people aware that this technology is already a part of our lives is key.
Oh, that's great. Looking out to year 2045, I guess, again, a lot of this is, theory and but looking on the line that we're going, where do you guys see us actually being?
That's a really good question. Potentially very scary.
Yeah.
Or potentially incredibly powerful. I see medical, I see medical advancements that are going to be profound. In situations with
Synthetic
microsurgery,
organs. Synthetic organs.
Yeah, synthetic organs, but microsurgeries that are really difficult today with the steady human hand. And if you have a machine that can handle that motion, the ability to fix connections in the human body will exist.
Yeah.
And it's going to help extend life. But again, who's now doing that surgery?
And who can afford it?
And who can afford it? Yeah, is one thing. Who can afford it? Who's now doing it?
Yeah.
And what is that doctor currently doing? Who has been displaced? So that's wonderful. I mean, it's powerful. It's great.
Yeah.
But at what cost? And, are you going to have a greater separation between the haves and the have-nots? Those students that got it early and their parents directed them, or they had the right teachers and they were motivated, and they're the people that can now fix and repair those damaged machines. Because of integral parts and times have changed and blah, blah, blah. That's a difficult task for a lot of AI at this point, where you need human intervention. And we were talking earlier about, handyman. It sounds like a job that you'd replace very easy. Well, no. They might be fixing a roof, up and down a ladder, underneath doing plumbing and doing electrical work. That's a lot to ask of a single robot because of the sheer number of computations that have to be involved.
Yeah.
Okay, but I can have you build a giant, we'll pick on Boeing, 737 today. You can have a robot do that pretty easily.
Yeah.
But you can't have them usually fix a toilet and do the plumbing to it.
Yeah.
Yet. When that happens, I don't know what humans are going to do. Because you've got something that'll do it 24 hours a day with
7 days a week,
7 days a week.
Yep.
It doesn't ask for a day off, and all you have to do is fix it when I'm broken. And once you train a robot
Throw
to
it
fix a
little
broken
oil.
robot,
It's good to go.
you're all set.
Yep.
Why do you need humans?
Yeah.
Not to get to Skynet and scare everybody, but
Well, no, and that's where I want to go.
yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
We got a couple of minutes left, and we could talk all day, but
Yes, definitely. I'll keep it short. I see a very, 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 very scary future, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. I really honestly feel that we need to do something today to keep that 2045 future from happening. Unchecked, I see a lot of people out of work. I see a lot of disparity around the country. I see the technology being used for the ultra 1%. I see that very little of the technology and the benefits of it trickling down through our society. I see, huge people in soup lines. I'm serious. That's the vision that I see.
Being served by robots.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So I'm just, and it's kind of crazy, we built a robot, but yet we were talking about, these scary things, and that's why we did it. We need to have that talk now. I don't have as a pragmatic outlook as Jason does, and I'm more, I'm scared. I really am. Because if you look at history, every time that man has relied heavily on machines, go back to the 1900s, to the last industrial age. What did we do with all of that technology? We went to war. World War I, World War II. So it's like this technology is like it will be used for military purposes. Where is the true benefit to humanity and mankind? And that is what I don't see a very happy future. So if we take the steps today, I see a little bit more of a utopian type of a society with technology. I can see where at some point we turn our back on technology, that it evolves to such a high level that we want to get back to our own humanity. And like, running to the top of the mountain, and then once you get there, you walk back down. And I can see that type of a future clearly. But the Skynet's still there.
To both your points, I think, there's a story of two engineers that created these two computers, and they started talking to each other, and within 5 minutes they created their own language, and they had to unplug them because they were freaked out.
Yes, exactly.
And then you get into self-replicating, nanobots
Machines,
that can, build themselves
Print
and continue to replicate. So there's definitely a scary factor. And I think on the medical side, it could open up. Instead of having to pay a very expensive surgeon, now it's programmed. It's an AI that might open up an opportunity for more surgeries for more people. Where now it's automated. So there could be, there's pros and cons to both sides. Wendy, do you have anything you wanted? What are you excited about? Year 2045. What scares you?
What scares me? I'm going to keep it on the positive side because I want to continue building on SUNI and continuing our visits with the children. I really have hope for our future generations, and I've met quite a few of them over the last 18 months, and they're definitely, they keep you uplifted, they keep you positive, they keep you motivated, they're excited to enter into this new technology space, and I think that if we can somehow streamline our education system to teach our teachers and teach our children, I think that we could have a much better outcome. But it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take a lot of bonding of the people. We cannot rely on government agencies to do that for us.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys coming in today. If anybody want to learn more about SUNI, what's the website, or where can they learn more?
SUNItherobot.com, SUNI, therobot.com. He's also on Instagram as well.
On Instagram.
#SUNItherobot, yes.
#SUNItherobot. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being here.
Appreciate
We could
it.
do this all day long, and we could
you.
cover some
Yes.
great information. So thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.